the number 19. It represents a new age and a destiny's hope. 19. We can go back in history, and the number 19 represented the completed plan and development and program for all creation in the universe. The program and purpose of all creation was to run for 19 billion years. And it started with the creation of the angels. That happened 19 billion years ago. Anybody want to give them a birthday party? Creation party, I guess. And about 15.5 billion years ago, matter was created, then our universe. Well, we see that we got certain numbers that have become keyed in here. 19 became a key, 3.5 became a key, 15.5 became a key set of numbers. The angels shouted for joy when they seen what happened. Okay? At this creation event, they shouted for joy because they realized they were going to be put to work maintaining that universe. They had a new purpose, a new day for them. And they had a new challenge. You know, sitting around heaven all day just praising, you know, you want to do something else sometimes.
3.5 billion years of it.
Yeah. And then we see that the Earth in our solar system was created, and this happened about 4.5 billion years ago. And again, it creates a significant number in events. Everything was moving along pretty good, or until Satan started his first rebellion. And that he started conniving and misleading people about 76 million years ago. Or the other angels. And this war against God lasted until about 66.5 million years ago, when he sent Satan and his demons back to earth. And Yeshua said, I saw Satan fall like lightning, thus ending the age of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs never took over the earth again. But you see, dinosaurs were designed because they needed an angel force to run their life for them. They could possess a physical being and have a dominion over that in the world. So the ones that were on earth lost all that privilege of it. Then, about 38,000 years ago, Satan used his humanoids to create AI robots, which were on the verge of doing a game on earth. And they were to harvest the humanoids. They were reprogrammed to harvest the humanoids and ship them off into space to be food for other races of beings. And these humanoids were supposed to destroy all life on the earth and under the earth in the oceans and stuff like that. This resulted in a war that's seen all these AI robots destroyed. But it also destroyed the first Punka police city on Earth. And that was about 20,000 years ago. It was later ordered rebuilt, and it was rebuilt in one night, this city that housed about 300,000 people. And that's quite a feat. Then the next rebellion came about 12,600 years ago. It was in this rebellion that we see chaos hit the solar system and the Earth. The planets were knocked out of the regular orbit, including the Earth was in a really heavy elliptical orbit. And when it was knocked out of its orbit, it went so far out into the back parts of the solar system that a great ice age formed on the Earth. They know that the northern hemisphere was covered with over 2 miles thick of ice. You had plenty of ice for ice cubes. And it is here where Genesis 1 verse 2 comes into play. It describes this situation. It says, "And the earth had become formless and void." Tohu and bohu. Well, it was formless because there was ice on the surface. You couldn't see anything else but ice. And you notice you can't plant a garden in ice? Has anybody noticed that? Okay. So it was void. There could be life under the ice and the small amounts of ocean that still existed, and deep in the underground caverns of the earth, but there was no life on the surface.
Kind of like Antarctica.
And darkness ruled over the surface of the deep. Well, if you're under 2 miles of ice living in caves, do you know you're in darkness? You don't see the sun. And you don't see the sun also because if you go far enough out, even the bit of haze that would be in the air from the sulfur dioxide and stuff in the air, you would not be able to recognize the sun when you make one of those big loops outward towards Neptune. But then, at a certain point, God the Father sent the Holy Spirit, and it came hovering or moving over the surface of the frozen waters. Well, the Holy Spirit is a source of light and heat, life, and very powerful. Right? It was from this point in time, 6,000 years ago, where Yeshua declares dominion over the earth. That happens in verse 3. He says his government is over the earth now and the solar system to begin the recreation of earth for its real purpose, the coming of mankind. So we see that 19 ends an old cycle, an age, a development time, a time of mercies, a purpose or program time, and it ends childhood. It's a proving time. 19 years presents a proving time. So what we have is the solar system and the earth and moon were all lined up so that every 19 years the moon, the earth, and the sun came to a fixed point for time correction or coming of age. A new age or new cycle would begin. And that is how you can tell, like, in 30 AD, Yeshua was crucified on Passover, which happened to be Wednesday. So he was in the grave Wednesday night, all day Thursday, all day Friday, and as sunset came on the Sabbath, guess who was resurrected? 3 days and 3 nights. But it was part of that time, of this 19-year time cycle. A new age was about to begin. "19th year is when the responsibility of the covenants sits upon each individual. When they reach their 19th year, God counts them accountable for keeping the covenants. And it's a test to see whether you will obey or rebel. The 19th year calls for sonship to blossom. You know, it's the growth of increase of new families was to begin. A young man and woman were supposed to start preparing themselves to get married and have a new family when they completed the 19th cycle. And it was also a year that represented the release of hidden prosperity and the return of ancient wealth, status, and estates. The 19th year resets the clock for either moving in sonship or going around the mountain another time. Ancient Israel had to go around the mountain twice. Plus put that 3.5 years in. For good measure. To get the 40 years in. And going around represents one more time. And it represents becoming lost in the darkness, the deserts, and or having time loss. You don't accomplish, months go by, years go by, and you're not accomplishing anything. You haven't stepped up to sonship. You on the 19th year cycle. In Hebrew, 19 is can fade by 2 words. The first is a-sor. And it's from a combo number, or it is designed to form a combo number or string of numbers that are to be used together. You use that term. It also is used as, I think Strong does it, 8672. Te Shaw. And this is representing a turning point or a move forward or upward, or or upward. And that's interesting because when we connect with an upward movement, we're not going around the mountain one more time. Okay. So just as our sun and moon come together in harmony every 19 years, so also these two words, Ashawar and Te Shaw, they establish time covenants forward and backward. And it goes into the next stage or the next step of development. So if you fight it, what happens? If you fight the growth, you have to go back and redo it from the start. Another 19-year cycle. And that's why we have to examine this time, especially coming into new moon next week. Are we ready to take the next step forward? Are we hanging on to our past and won't let go? Because if we're not willing to let go, we repeat the cycle again. And you know how good your last 19 years were. See what joy you'll have doing it again, but maybe 10% or 25% worse. More intense. So we bless you that you may take the next step, and that it'll be forward and upward in sonship, prosperity, and the spiritual growth you need. In Yeshua's name, amen.